Hello and welcome to another episode of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the movies of May 11th, 2001. Only two movies to look at today, and only one of them was really a big release, and that's this one that we're going to be talking about right here. And that is Heath Ledger in A Knight's Tale.
Enough, a man can do anything. We could do this. In 1 month, we could be on our way to glory and riches none of us ever dreamed of. You can't even joust. I think he's getting worse. He is getting worse. I won't spend the rest of my life as nothing. You have to be of noble birth to compete, so we lie. My lords, my ladies, I have the pride, the privilege, nay, pleasure of introducing to you a knight, sired by knights. William Thatcher didn't make the rules. He was born. I've waited my whole life for this moment. To break them. Yes! Thank you, I'll be here all week. My life was different. Oh, you are? Ulrich von Liechtenstein from Gelderland.
Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein. I would have him win my heart.
He's won 4 tournaments in a row. On a horse, that man is unbeatable.
You're just a silly boy with a horse and a stick.
It's called a lance. Hello? If the nobles find out who you are, there'll be the devil to pay. Pray that they don't.
Ulrich von Liechtenstein is not who he appears to be.
The girl will arrest you and doesn't run guards.
I love you. There's nothing else to do. Run, and I will run with you.
I will not run! I'm a knight. I'm here to compete. The stars will lie.
Your name makes no matter to me, so long as I can call you my own.
So A Knight's Tale stars Heath Ledger as William Thatcher, a peasant squire who poses as a knight and competes in tournaments, winning accolades and acquiring friendships with such historical figures like Edward the Black Prince, played by James Purefoy, and Geoffrey Chaucer, played by Paul Bettany. You see also Mark Addy in here, as well as Rufus Sewell and Alan Tudyk. And what's notable about this movie, you might kind of have seen from the trailer for this, its 14th century story is intentionally anachronistic, with many modern pop culture references and a soundtrack featuring 1970s music, which is funny because the movie that comes out the next week proved to be the much bigger success, taking classic stories and adding a modern edge to it. But we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. But this movie in particular is a very interesting film, written and directed by Brian Helgeland, who also wrote the script for LA Confidential. But it's the first movie that really cemented Heath Ledger as a leading star in here. He had a show a couple of years ago, which did not last very long. I believe, I'm trying to remember what the show was called. It was some War was what it was called, because it was on Fox for a little bit here in America, but he had his big breakout role in 10 Things I Hate About You, and then followed that up in The Patriot, and then this is his first real opportunity in a leading role here, and for a guy like him to come into this movie, he really commanded the screen in this film, and did a pretty good job with it, too. The movie does a pretty good job of balancing the modern humor that's trying to put together, the modern style is trying to put together, with more of the classic storylines from ancient times, like medieval times. And I think it does a pretty good job of handling that. It's a very predictable story. It's basically a Rocky storyline here, and I think the critical consensus pretty much says it best on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a predictable, if spirited Rocky on horseback, which it kind of is, but it's a fun kind of predictable, where you just kind of accept it for what it is, and then you just go on with your day. And what's interesting about this movie, the one thing that most people take away from it isn't the movie itself, but what went on behind the scenes, because it was this movie and The Animal that was released in 2001 where somebody started to realize this David Manning guy doesn't have any real credentials to him. And Newsweek actually revealed that it was a fake critic created by a Columbia employee who worked in the advertising department, and he was fraudulently presented as a reviewer for the Ridgefield Press, which is a small Connecticut newspaper, And basically, that came out a couple weeks later when The Animal came out, and we'll talk about that movie as we go for a couple weeks from now. But they put praise on some actually decent films. I mean, Vertical Limit was one of those movies where this guy had his name on it. Hollow Man was another one, and this one is a pretty fun movie too. It's a really fun film. It knows what it's trying to do. It has a good cast to really make it work in the long run, and it is a fun action comedy. It's a really good, well-made film. The soundtrack for the movie is great. It's all 70s music, and I mean, come on. We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, You Shook Me All Night Long. I mean, just, that's my bread and butter right there. So maybe that's why I loved it a little bit more than most people did. But I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I think it's a ton of fun. I can't recommend it enough. A Knight's Tale is a ton of fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last movie we have here, and that is the animated feature, The Trumpet and the Swan.
E.B. White, beloved author of Stuart Little, comes another family classic, The Trumpet of the Swan. Starring Louis, the trumpeter swan without a voice, who finds out that everyone has their own special gift. Featuring the voices of Jason Alexander, Reese Witherspoon, Barry Steenburgen, and Seth Green. With Carol Burnett and Joe Mantegna. And music performed by Little Richard. Right, Louis! The Trumpet of the Swan. Everybody say!
Or The Trumpet of the Swan. I got it confused there. Thought it was Anne. But from the director of The Swan Princess, and also director of many of the more notable late 90s movies that weren't really all that great, like The King and I and The Scarecrow. But never mind the fact that he was one of the directors on The Fox and the Hound and the Black Cauldron, when he worked at Disney. But this is based off of E.B. White's book of the same name. It tells the story of a young trumpeter swan who is born with muteness and is vying for the attention of this beautiful pen played by Reese Witherspoon. He overcomes this by learning to play the trumpet, and that's pretty much where it goes from there. I guess really that this is one that I don't remember a whole lot from. I used to remember seeing the trailer for it a lot on like the old Columbia videotapes, and I mean, the biggest draw of the movie was the cast that has Witherspoon, Jason Alexander, Barry Steenburgen, Seth Green, Carol Burnett, Joe Mantegna, a couple of other notable names in there, Melissa Disney from As Told by Ginger, Kath Soucie, E.G. Daily, Pam Siegel, Gary Anthony Williams, Corey Burton, a lot of notable voice actors involved in this film. I don't remember too much about this movie, and even then, it felt like a movie that I would have never really been that interested in, honestly. It's one of those movies that just kind of feels like it really isn't all that special or anything that unique or anything that interesting in general. Like, the animation's kind of mediocre at best, but then again, that's what it was for this director's company when he started directing movies on his own in the late 90s. Yeah, I never read the book this was based off of. I never saw the movie in full, but what I did see from it never was really anything that made me want to see the movie in full. Like, it felt like a film that was just kind of like, for little kids, maybe they enjoyed it, but it's not one that I would want to watch anytime soon, especially at the age I was at when that came out. So, not much more to say about that one. That's The Trumpet and the Swan. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll take a look at May 18th with one of those movies I was talking about earlier. That is, of course, Shrek. Surely he won't go anywhere after this movie comes out. But we also have Jennifer Lopez and Angel Eyes, and we also have the limited release of Baz Luhrmann's Moulin Rouge. So, 3 notable movies we'll take a look at next time. But until then, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.